All right, Missouri redistricted. They're going to have 7 Republicans, most likely, in Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives. 1 Democrat, Emanuel Cleaver, got squeezed here in the last few weeks. What about on the Kansas side? How likely is it that the special session happens in November, which is what's being talked about right now? We told you this last week. And then they actually get it done. And Sharice Davids on the Kansas side potentially has a much tougher pathway to re-election than she otherwise would have. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute, is here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So let's just start there, Dave, with the special session coming. How do you see this playing out in Kansas over the next few weeks?
Well, good morning, Pete. It's good to be here. It's really hard to say if it's going to happen. There's obviously a big push to get Republicans to have this call for the special session. What we're hearing is that the names are there in the Senate, but the House is maybe still a couple people short of the number needed to officially call the session. It seems like it's moving in that direction, and it probably will happen.
Okay, so you think it will happen coming up next month. So there's a lot of things that, may get discussed here, whether it's redistricting, whether it's gender changes on driver's licenses. But what about something else that maybe isn't as sexy of a headline, but should be getting attention in terms of something Kansas could look at in a special session coming up next month?
Well, there's a fair amount of controversy over whether there should be a special session, and so if they were to take up property tax relief, which is a pretty simple thing to do, they got rather close in the regular session this year. If they were to take up property tax relief, that's a 80-20, maybe a 90-10 issue. That takes some of the heat off of Republicans for calling a special session if they come out of it with something that virtually everyone wants. It really just comes down to, can the House and Senate get together on what to do and negotiate some of the finer differences between the two. That would be a big, big win.
Now, what would that look like in your perfect world? Would it be cutting the state portion of property taxes for homeowners, which really isn't a very big percentage of the property tax bill? Or is it putting limitations on counties and cities and schools from how much they can increase property taxes? How would you ideally like to see that play out?
Well, it's the latter, because in the special session or in the regular session this year, they eliminated the last bit of property tax that was used for state operations. Every dollar of property tax now is for local governments, for cities, counties, schools, and so forth. It's for operating those entities. So the focus, and that's where the problem always was. I mean, there was only about 1% before that was used for state operations. Statewide, it's about 45% of all property tax is for schools, and 55% is for other entities of local government. So they really need to do it. And there's two things. One is putting a cap on the annual increase in taxable assessed valuations, not the appraisal. You can still do the market value appraisal, but cap what the portion that gets taxed. That needs to get done constitutionally. The other thing is putting a limit on how much of a total increase any entity can impose without some form of government voter input, like voters approving for it or having the right to protest petition and shut it down. That also needs to happen, because obviously if you're getting a 20% valuation increase, you can't afford it. If you stop that, locals could still raise mill rates enough to offset it and still have a big tax increase. So you really have to tackle both issues. Okay, so then how realistic is that in a special session if we're going to be doing redistricting and potentially other issues as well? Is this something that, as far as you can tell, they would be able to get done between Republicans and Democrats, since it is, as you noted, an 80-20 issue? Question is, are the votes going to be there, and can they corral those votes? Well, frankly, that comes down to whether enough legislators are willing to stand with taxpayers rather than local government officials, and that's bipartisan. There are people in both parties who are hesitant to put any kind of restriction on local government's ability to tax people for a variety of reasons. But it's at least an 80-20 issue. And so they can do it in a special session on the constitutional amendment because they got very close during the session. So there's the debate over whether there should be done. Both chambers passed an amendment. It was just the House wanted to do it with a rolling average, and the Senate wanted to do it with a fixed percentage increase each year. So figure that out. I mean, that should be a short conversation. We know we have to do it. What's the number? What's the method that's going to get us over the line in 2/3 votes? That could be done easily. The other one hasn't really been fully debated. So yeah, that one would take more time and maybe more realistically done in the regular session.
All right. So Dave Trabert's here on KCMO, Kansas Policy Institute. Is this a conversation that you have had with any lawmakers privately? And if so, what can you share with us regarding the possibility that the property tax issue becomes a part of the special session next month?
The folks we've been talking to are very open to having that property tax issue be addressed. They understand the need. It's just a matter of whether, how long they want to be in a special session and whether leadership decides that they want to take it up or deal with it when they come back in January. But I think there is a fair number of people who they're hearing it loud and clear right now as some entities are raising taxes again. Obviously, Overland Park, Johnson County, they don't care. They're going to stick it to taxpayers. So they know they're hearing it a lot, and they want relief. So there's that pressure.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. All right, Dave, thanks so much, my man. We appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, Pete. Have a good day.
You as well. Dave Trabert on KCMO Talk Radio. I mean, I would love to see it. I just don't know. I mean, I've been hearing that the redistricting is on the fritz in Kansas, that they don't have the votes right now to get it done. And that would be to try to figure out a way to basically make it more difficult for Sharice Davids to win re-election. It is very obvious gerrymandering. We all know the game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not. It is. We all get it. But the question really is, do the Republicans have the votes to do it? And how much of this as well is potentially being motivated and driven by people who want to be the next governor of Kansas? It's not a secret that Ty Masterson is the Senate president. He's the one who would call a special session. He wants to be the next governor. Is this something that gets him in the good graces of President Trump for a potential endorsement? Is this something that, Trump looks at and says, oh, wow, we got another seat out of Kansas. Who's responsible for that? Oh, boy, it's a wide open race there in Kansas. I can tip the scales one way or the other. Now, I know there's a lot of folks who believe they should have the endorsement of President Trump in this Kansas governor's race, but that could be one of those things that comes up in the conversation when you're trying to balance the politics with the policy. And that's where we find ourselves right now.